Welcome to this webinar on the topic Visual Arts in Your Church. This online training session is sponsored by the Worship Ministries of the Christian Reformed Church. And my name is Diane Dykegraf. I will be coordinating this webinar today for you. The first part of the webinar will be the teaching, and that will be done by Nicole Ensing and Sydney Yapoujian. They will take approximately 30 minutes for the teaching, 15 minutes each. And during that time, we would invite you to type questions into the chat box. If you have a specific question that you think of during their presentation and during any of the pictures or videos that they show, please mention their name if you would like to ask a question specifically of Nicole or specifically of Sydney. So we will also be recording this session, and you can watch it later, or you can share it with friends, or those who aren't able to come can watch it then too as well. So again, I would invite you to type your questions. We want this to be interactive. The last 30 minutes or so we will spend interacting with each other, and you can ask these teachers any questions that you have today. I will introduce them briefly, and then I'll turn it over to Nicole for the first part of her teaching. Nicole Ensing is a worship ministry coordinator at New Life Christian Reformed Church in Guelph, Ontario. She's one of two artists in residence also at her church. And Sydney Yapoujian is the worship and arts director at Crestview Church in Boulder, Colorado. She is also an award-winning songwriter and a visual artist and a professional photographer. So at this time, I will turn it over to Nicole for her teaching. And so take it away, Nicole.
Hi, Diane. Thank you so much. I'm really honored to be asked to present today. So first of all, I'll just talk about how passionate I am about arts and music, and very thankful that I'm in a church that supports the visual arts and worship, and is very, very supportive of this and encourages it and values it highly. I studied visual arts in college, and it's a great way for me to integrate all of my loves into my work. I am also part of the artist worship team here at New Life. We operate a small gallery within our sanctuary, and it's our mandate to purposefully bring art into our worship space. I say purposefully because the worship ministry does integrate visual arts into this space often. It's often part of a liturgical season, or maybe to support a sermon series. But the artist worship team plans to hold 5 exhibits throughout the course of the year. Sometimes we will also support a sermon series or something like that, but we plan for 5 exhibits within the course of a year. Our goal is to create a worshipful space, but also to be a host to artists within the community. Right behind me is the current exhibit, and this is by artist Gina Duque. This piece is called Center of Origin, and it's part of her Uprooted series, which is a macro view of microscopic views of seeds. This is really exciting for our congregation because we are currently in a theme called, that's based on the parable of the sower. And so this supports that theme beautifully, and it's one way for us to look forward to it throughout the course of the year. A nice story about Gina is that she's an artist that we invited to exhibit here a couple years ago, and she enjoyed our worship here so much that she has decided to become a regular attender. And now she actually is a member of our artist worship team as well. We supplement our exhibits with different resources. And so one of the things that we do is we put out a brochure, and I'm just showing you the one from Gina's. So we have here an artist bio, we'll have the list of works, and at the back we'll have an artist statement. We also like to sometimes hand out children's materials just to invite them to think deeply into parts of the exhibit and to look for things that might be hidden to them, to drag their parents along and have conversation. And sometimes we hand out books that we're using or other resources like that. And we hold Meet the Artist events, and I'll talk a little more about that a little bit later. One of the really big things that we've done twice now is that Artist in Residence program that Diane was talking about. And our first one went really, really well, so we were happy to do that again. And I'll be showing some pictures later, and I'll take you on a short walk through that. But what that basically does is that encourages active participation of our congregation in the making of art. So I have a PowerPoint that I'm going to share with you, and I will talk through a little bit more. So then this first slide, the inset there is a look at our original gallery space. And it looks small, but that's actually, that wall is over 20 feet long, and those are just very large pieces of art that are hanging in it. We started with a small piece. We did not have lighting at the beginning, but over the course of time, we were able to budget for proper lighting and things like that. And you can see that we also expanded further into the sanctuary space. And sometimes that happens, that we'll have a really large exhibit or something that really supports the liturgical season or the sermon series, and so then we like to bring it out further into the space. I talked about a Meet the Artist event, and this is one right here. And so what we do is we create time for our congregation to hear the artists talk about their work, and also for them to ask questions and to have them answered. It's just a more intimate gathering, and we love doing this. What you see here is Phil Irish, who is an art professor at the Redeemer University in Ancaster, Ontario. And he is a great resource for me, as is that university, because, you know, searching out artists is something that we're constantly on the lookout for. What I'll do is I'll contact Phil, ask him what his students are working on, and sometimes from that we just discover new ways that we can host a themed exhibit, because that's a group exhibit, and so it's a little different than hosting one artist in their work. In this picture, you can see Bethany Kenyon. She is one of the students. And then also you see Phil Irish again with one of his own pieces of work. So this is from our Artist in Residence program. It's the first one that we did. Anita Van Zumeren was the artist, and she brought in 48 umbrellas. Black, most of them black, but you can see on the bottom right, there is a red one. And the red one represents Christ, and the black one represents us as people. Now, typically, we hold an umbrella above ourselves, upright, to protect ourselves from elements. But Anita envisioned that that red umbrella was Jesus, who turned himself upside down to receive all the hurt and brokenness in the world. And so we were encouraged over the course of 6 weeks to paint umbrellas and then to turn them upside down in our sanctuary. Now, this was a really excellent way for us to involve our congregation. Different ministries gathered together to paint umbrellas. So you'll see some here from our Healing Prayer Ministry. The pink one is painted by our GEMS, which is our girls ministry. The white one there with lots of splatters on it is from our youth ministry. And this was just a really beautiful way for people to help create art and, you know, to encourage people to explore without, you know, having to say whether they feel themselves to be an artist or not. The wonderful thing about this exhibit and this installation was that we were able to use it throughout the course of a year. Our theme was blessed to be a blessing. And I found a drama that incorporated the use of colored umbrellas. So we used those colored umbrellas in our candlelight service at Christmas time. And then throughout the course of the year, we were able to change things up in how they were displayed. As you can see in the first picture here, they were hung off of fishing line. And in the second one, we brought them down into different spaces. And at Lent, we took down all the colorful umbrellas and left up only the black. At Easter, we brought out all the colorful ones again. Pentecost, we left up the reddish colored ones and added a dove and some red streamers. So it was a wonderful way to just keep that, the congregation's handiwork visible throughout the course of the year. This is a way to be really accessible, I think, for your congregation, and that's just to invite your children to participate. Invite them to create art that matches a theme. This one in particular was for an Advent exhibit, and so it's Asleep on the Hay, which is, of course, a line from the song Away in a Manger. And we took the art that they submitted to us, put it on some colored cardstock to beef it up a little, and laminated it. And the kids were just thrilled to be the artists in the art gallery. It was a great opportunity for them. Another way that you can make this accessible to your congregation is that every summer we host photographers. And so in the springtime, we put out a theme. We invite submissions for that theme. We curate that, so we choose which ones support the theme the best. And we frame them all in frames from IKEA, actually, and then hang them. And then so every summer, we get to feature photography from our congregation, which is beautiful. We're looking ahead towards Advent in our churches, and so I'm just going to share with you a couple more Advent ideas. This one is from our exhibit last year. This is based off of Ann Voskamp's book, The Greatest Gift. And there are two versions of that book. One is the adult version and one is the children's version. And in the adult version, there are these gorgeous paper cut illustrations. And Dayspring has created embossed paper ornaments. Now these are out of stock right now, but you can sign up to be notified when they're back in stock. Anyways, we took these ornaments, we mounted them on a foam core, added a tiny little jewel there at the hole so that you could hang them as an ornament. So we just covered up the hole with a little jewel. We had those up for the whole time of Advent. Beautiful. So the colorful version, the children's version, is beautiful. You can see the rich colors here. We liked them so much that we thought this would help accompany this. And what we did then is we bought two versions of the book. One of them we kept out so people could leaf through it. The second one we cut apart, laminated the illustrations, and hung them up in the education hall in our church building. And so we had our upstairs gallery and we had a downstairs gallery. Then I'd like to encourage you to think beyond visual arts in terms of painting and caustics or mixed media, but to also think about dance. And we have some wonderful girls here who study dance, and they will do presentation pieces themselves. They've choreographed pieces for our children, and we love that. But one year we invited a professional dance troupe to come and present their Christmas production, which is called Adore Him. So this dance ministry is called 111 Ministries, and they are in Ontario. And the pictures on the right that you see are of their poster, but the pictures on the left are actually from the candlelight service that we had at Christmas. And we were able to manipulate the space in our sanctuary because we have chairs that move, and created a dance floor right there. And it was really moving and beautiful. So this is our final slide here right now. This is this year's project called the Identity Project. And this is a piece by Gina Duque and also myself that we worked on together. Collaborating together is one of the things that we value here at New Life. We collaborate in a lot of ways with preaching and with other art installations, but this is one where Gina and I got to work together on an art piece with our congregation. And the way that we did this is different than the former Artist in Residence project. This time we invited our congregation to submit mementos, stories, photographs of what it means to be a member of New Life Church, where we've been, where we are now, and things that we look forward to. And we were able to take those places and kind of meld the disciplines that Gina and I work in to create this piece. And each of those 9 panels tells several stories. Also, you'll notice there are some pieces that are not our own artwork, but they feature artwork from artists who've exhibited in our gallery over the course of the years. So Nathan Turner at the top, he was the first slide you saw, and those seeds are from Floyd Elzinga. We've had some interesting ways that we can come back to artists. So this is one of them. Another is that Floyd was invited to create an art installation for us that we have kept as a piece here at the church. And another is that Nathan, when we did a rebrand on our church, he is a graphic artist, and so we actually hired him to redesign our logo. I'm going to just share one more thing with you, and that is that this Advent, we have decided to hold a group exhibit, which we've titled Birth. It's a pretty broad theme, And we've invited a number of artists who have exhibited in the past to just submit pieces towards that theme. And it doesn't necessarily need to reflect on the nativity story, but it could be along the themes of anticipation or, carrying a child or any of those thoughts that they could interpret them for themselves. And I'm excited to see what types of pieces are submitted for that in this year's exhibit. I will be really happy to answer some questions at the end, but right now I'm going to turn this over to Sydney.
Hello. I don't know if you can see me right now. I think it's okay. But my name is Sydney Apujian. I am the worship and arts pastor at Crestview Church in Boulder. And I am a musician as well as a fine artist. And I am very, very blessed to be able to, like Nicole, work with both sides of my creativity. And so I'm excited to be doing music and art in my church. We don't have any artists in residence yet. We would like to move in that direction if the Lord makes the way for that. But I guess you could kind of call me an artist in residence. So, all right, so I'll tell you a little bit about our church. Our church was built in 1963, and so it's 54 years old. We celebrated our 50th anniversary in a really great way. It was really fun. Also, an addition was put onto our main sanctuary in 1987, and that houses mostly the children's classes and the new kitchen. The sanctuary was remodeled in 2004, and so I will show you what that looks like right now. So this is our sanctuary, and we have this beautiful vaulted ceiling, which is wonderful. It's just a beautiful small chapel kind of sanctuary, and we are. Yes.
Sydney, I'm not seeing your screen. Are you sharing your screen?
Okay, I'm sorry. Let's
try that again.
Okay, let's try that again. Aha, here we go. How's that?
Great, beautiful. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. Forgot to click that one button. So this is the sanctuary. Has a vaulted ceiling again, and it's just this beautiful chapel-like feel in our sanctuary. We do have a choir loft above where we're standing to take this photograph. So as you can see, the sanctuary comes down into, it's kind of angled down, which makes the stage area look kind of small. And one of the things that bothered me, I've been on staff for about 3 years now, and one of the things that bothered me was the blankness of the side walls, which kind of made the stage look very small. And so I tried experimenting with a couple of ways to expand the back of the stage and create that a bigger feel to the platform by creating something on the sides. The first thing I tried was to just put some sheer curtains on those side walls on the platform with Christmas lights behind with a black valance to match the curtain that is already there. And that was very nice, kind of warmed up my congregation to the thought of having something on the side there. But the next thing that we did was we designed light boxes, and I'm just going to put this up briefly. This is going to be up on YouTube for you to look at later if you'd like. I will give the link to Diane so that you can go back and look at this information. The light boxes were designed to bring light and breath to the platform. They're made of aluminum frames with coroplast fronts. These boxes are like a canvas to us, and that allows us to have a lot of flexibility in changing the look for each sermon series or holiday. Coroplast, if you're not familiar with that, is a corrugated plastic similar to cardboard, and it allows the light behind it to really glow and shine through that. The natural color of chloroplast is better than the white, which I thought was unusual, but we did find that to be true. It gives a nice even glow. In the photographs you're going to see in this presentation, it doesn't give a good representation of this even glow. You'll kind of see the strips of lights in the photographs, but it doesn't really look like that in real life. And Coroplast can be ordered online or through Home Depot or through your local sign fabricator. So these light boxes that we designed were fabricated by a local sign maker. It was great to work with them. They were really happy to work with the local church. They even gave us some discounts on it because we were a church, and they also gave us free help with installation. One of the things about our church is that we've gone through some ups and downs with new pastors, and we do have a new pastor, Mark Quist, who joined us about 2 years ago, and so we've had some ups and downs in our numbers in our congregation, and we're at about 150 right now. So we do have a limited budget and just limited means as to what we could do. So in creating these light boxes, it was really important for us to keep it very affordable. So what you're seeing right now is the back of half of a light box, and then you'll see on the left-hand side of the screen is where two halves are being joined together. They're being screwed together. And then on the right side, we are using some RGB LED light ribbon strips, and they're attached to these strips of aluminum that are at the back of the box, 12 inches from the front. And it's important that you have them at least 12 to 14 inches away from the coroplast in order for that glow to happen. We have since decided that we're going to change to RGBW light strips. And the difference between them is that without the RGB means red, green, and blue, and the W means white. If you add in the white element, you can create a lot more variety of colors from your light strips. But the RGB have been really great for the past almost 2 years now that we've had the light boxes up. We connected these lights into our main lighting system so that we could control them with the rest of our lighting system. So this is the connected two halves of the light box with the lights installed. Each of the 4 strips of lights can be programmed to make a different color, or they can be programmed to all be the same. It just depends on what you would like to have them look like. These are the light boxes being hung on the wall, and they are simply put on, just resting on 2 brackets that are near the top of the wall. And they're so light that they're easily lifted by 2 people. And they just are super easy to put on the wall. And also, very importantly, to take off the wall if we decide not to have them for a time or decide to do something else. I was also a little leery of putting these up because I didn't know how my congregation was really going to feel about them. So I wanted to make sure that I could take them down if they really, really objected. So we wanted to make sure that they were easy to take off the wall. So we did these faux stained glass window things with just simple things. We painted some paper-like fabric. We put some plastic gift basket wrap over that. We used black electrical tape to make the lines between the colors, and we used black foam board to make the frames. We attached these to the coroplast on the front of the light boxes with double stick tape. And these were made to mimic the stained glass that hangs in front of our windows on the sides of our sanctuary windows. So again, this is before the light boxes, and this is after. So you can see that the light boxes are up there. The stained glass have been just stuck on there with double stick tape. And this was our first Easter with the light boxes in place. It really added an incredible depth and glow to our platform, and really helped focus in the attention on our stage a little more. And so I wanted to give you a list of some of the things that we use to make these light boxes different, to put different artwork up there, to use them as kind of a canvas in order to change things so that it goes along with either the theme of the sermon series or the holiday or or the season, what have you. We use a lot of black butcher block paper on a roll, colored tissue paper, plastic gift basket wrap that comes on a roll, glue sticks, electrical tape, black masking tape, double stick tape and dots, poster board, tag board cutouts, sheer fabrics, recycled band charts, etc. And these are all just amazingly cheap to use in order to make the decor change. This is something we did for our Nehemiah series. Nehemiah, if you remember, is the guy who built the wall, rebuilt the wall around Jerusalem. And our pastor chose to focus on these 3 words. So we did this kind of cross word puzzle thing on one side, and then we put tools on the other side with just a simple black glow on the boxes. So this is what it looks like. And I think it really helps the congregation to focus on those 3 words throughout that sermon series. This is we had our moms and kids come and help us make some tissue paper flowers that we then attached to plastic wrap and then used double stick tape to stick those onto the light boxes. And so it really made a cute little theme for Mother's Day and also for the spring season. We did a foundation series and used the light boxes for that. We used the black butcher block paper, and I used a rotary cutter to cut out sort of stained glass type of outlines. And then we used tissue paper to add color to these things that we're going to hang in front of the light boxes. So for our foundation series, we wound up with 4 different panels. And because you can make the color strips in the back different colors, it was easy to change the colors for each panel. One for creation, the fall, redemption, and new life. This is the way it looked from the congregation. And this was up the entire series. And it was great. The pastor would refer to each of the panels throughout his sermons. And it was just a great focal point for that sermon series. At Christmas, we also do like to involve our congregation. And these are origami stars that we did for Christmas. And I saved my band charts throughout the year, the band charts that, you know, either just go in the recycle or go in the filing cabinet. I saved them and gave them out to our congregation with instructions. And so the whole congregation pitched in to make hundreds of origami stars out of the old band charts. And then we hung them with curly ribbon and strung them up with Christmas lights throughout our vaulted ceiling there. And it was just magical. It was really neat. And some of the people had taken the liberty to paint the stars and to add glitter and kind of personalize them. And it was a lovely, lovely way to use and it was so inexpensive. This whole thing cost less than $100 to do for Christmas. I chose to just leave the light panels a solid color and not do anything with them so that the attention could be on the rest of the decor. This is our new pastor, Pastor Mark, and this was one of the series that we did. He called it the One Way series, and we really focused the light boxes with this traffic sign style kind of thing, so that throughout the series they could he could point to those kinds of things and use that for his illustrations as well. This is our Good Friday service. As you can see, the lights are dimmed. We used this really deep purple in the light boxes, and it was just a beautiful mood for the Good Friday service. This is my friend Ruthie, and she's helping me to create an acrylic triptych painting of a sunrise. I got really tired of the curtains in the back of the sanctuary, of the stage. So we decided to do something different there. So we created a triptych painting on large canvases, and then we also hung sheer fabric on the light boxes. Now, it was a little tricky to hang the fabric from the light boxes. We had to try different methods of doing that. We wound up using a lot of straight pins and tacking the fabrics together, lots and lots of double stick tape and double stick dots, all kinds of ways to try and get the fabric to stick to the light boxes. And it was a great 3D effect on top of the light box on each side. And this is what it looked like for Easter this year. We left that up for quite a while because it was just so beautiful, and the colors were just delicious. After a while, we took the fabric off the light boxes and left the sunrise painting up for quite a while. This is the acrylic triptych painting that I did for the fall season. This painting I designed to, oops, let me go back for a second. This painting I designed, this painting is changing with the season. So I've already gone through once and kind of painted over the top of this. All of the leaves have fallen now and the colors have kind of dulled out. And there's some snow on the back mountains now. So this painting is going to continue to change with the season as we head towards Christmas. And then it's going to be all snow. We added some fall leaves painted on transparencies with alcohol ink and affixed those to the light boxes. So this is what it looks like right now. We also do, and I know my time is running out, but we also do a text of the quarter that we memorize as a congregation, and to invite our other artists to be participating in some art in our church. We do a gallery hanging every quarter, and our artists are encouraged to do an art piece that depicts the text of the quarter for that quarter. So this one is about the wise man building his house on the rock. We involved the children's ministry, and the kids made these really cute houses to hang. We also do live paintings at times during sermons to help focus attention, and this was one of the ones that we did for that. We are just really dabbling in the fine arts, starting to get started, incorporating different things, inviting our congregation into the arts here at the church, and we hope to expand that a lot in the coming year. One thing I would mention is that I love using the Shift app, which is something you can get on your smartphone, which allows you to use photography from your congregation in order to make background images for your song lyrics on the screen. So if you're looking for ways to use your congregation's photography, that's a really fun way to do it. And so now I will hand it back over to Diane.
All right, thank you so much. Both of you, you've given us so many ideas and so many great pictures. I'm going to check. Please type in your questions if you can. And I can't see those yet. Sydney, did you stop sharing your screen?
Let's see.
Sometimes, there you go. Sometimes it takes a few minutes to, it's a little bit of a delay here. So, um, yes, I would, if I don't see that we have any questions yet, so I'm going to actually give Nicole a question and give Sydney a chance to take a little breath from your presentation there. And also ask people to please type your questions in, because I'm sure you have a few of them like I do. That was great. But Nicole, I'm going to ask you, yeah, I loved your presentation too, and especially about how you involve your congregation. You have artists in residence, so that's kind of a specialty kind of thing that you do, but you also have ways to involve your congregation, the umbrellas and some other things. Can you talk a little bit more about that, and what does that mean to them? What kind of impact has that had on your congregation?
I think it gives them a different layer of engagement, right? Because you come on a Sunday, you sing songs, and you hear the word. But this allows you to be active with your mind and your body in a different way. Sometimes we invite them to do art as part of the worship service. The Artist in Residence program typically happens at different times of the week, not always on a Sunday during worship. And so it helps connect what you're learning on the Sunday into the rest of the week, and later to look at it, especially for our youth and children, to look at something and say, I made that. It really says to our congregation that leading worship is not just from your worship leaders, right? And not just from your pastor. We are all called to praise God and to raise our voice or use our hands and to praise God in that way.
Yes, absolutely. And I know kids especially love to be involved in that. And they love to see their own contributions, their own art, their own, even your Advent pictures there that the kids had made. I think you called it Asleep on the Hay, right? Yes. So I love that because it ties into the songs they're singing, Away in a Manger, and gives them that creative response, of putting something down on paper in front of them. And then you displayed them for the rest of the congregation. So they take pride in that, and it makes the church their own too, I think. So yeah, thanks for that. And visuals are so important. Sydney, would you tell us a little bit more about your art thing? Actually, what I'm gonna say is that Sydney has there's an article in a Reformed Worship that came out in March of 2017 that features her light boxes, and actually you can find the article online, but if you want to really see the light boxes again, you have to rewatch this webinar, the recording, or get the print copy, because the print copy of Reformed Worship is the only one that will have the art in it. But in this article, you said something really interesting at the beginning there about your trip to Russia. Oh, and would you just share that for a minute with our people? Thanks.
Yeah, sure. I adopted my daughter from Russia, and so it was my first time out of the country when I went to Russia. So I was very naive and very young, and so one of the things that happened while we were there, waiting for paperwork to get done, was that we got a tour of a beautiful cathedral in one of the old cities, one of those with the beautiful gold onion domes. And when we went in, it was my first experience with icons. And icons were the pictures of the saints and Jesus and Mary and all of the Bible stories that were represented in paintings all over the walls. And so I just new to that. I really didn't understand it at all. And so I asked the tour guide, I said, so why icons? Why are there icons? And why were they so strict with the artists who did the icons about making sure that they were consistent from church to church to church throughout the country when these were being made? And she said, well, it's because people during that time were illiterate and they needed to be able to read the Bible. So they painted the Bible and pictures all over the church. And I just remember at that, young, naive time that I was just like, oh, that's just brilliant. That's really wonderful. A lot of people have a hard time with icons because of different reasons, and people tend to perhaps in more liturgical settings or Orthodox settings, they tend to kind of revere the painting itself a little too much than what it is supposed to represent. But that taught me a lot about visuals in the church. And not everybody learns the same way. Some people learn by audibly, some people learn kinetically, some people learn visually. I'm very visual myself. And so adding that visual element really, I think, helps people to learn and retain information and to broaden their own experience with the Lord in their worship and their understanding of God. And I love it when they're encouraged to participate in that, because then they have yet another connection, another way of connecting with the Lord in their worship. And it's just something that sticks with you a little longer than just maybe a sermon by itself.
I love that. I loved reading about that too, and the icons. It gave me a whole new way to think about that too, and the fact that we're a literate society, but people still need the visuals. Many people, like you just said, learn by visuals. They learn a lot about the faith from the visuals that we are able to now express and put up in church. Both of you guys have done such a gorgeous job of that. We do have some questions coming in, so I'm going to start with them. The first one is for Sydney, and they're asking, what was the app to use for the congregation photos? Is it a sharing app or an editing app?
It is an editing app. It's Shift, SHIFT. And you can get it on your Android or your iPhone. And it is super simple to use. And I love it because you can take a photograph. You can put different types of filters on it, make it really jazzy or moody or whatever you like. And then you can also add moving parts to it. So for instance, in the winter, you might want to use the snow falling, or in the fall, you might want to use some leaves falling, or there's all kinds of like bouquets and flares and star things. And they just have this whole package. The app is free, and it makes wonderful HD backgrounds. And so I love using our congregation's photographs, my photographs, to make original background things for the congregation to see behind the lyrics, behind the scriptures that are on the screen, and it makes them feel a part of what's going on. And also they're free as well. You can download them, and it's just easy to put onto your screen and save a lot of money, which is also great.
I have a feeling the congregation likes seeing their own photographs up on the screen too, behind the lyrics and
Yeah.
things like that. That's awesome. So it's called Shift, SHIFT, and I will put that into the when we post this webinar on the network, and we'll send the link out to people. That will be included in the description of this webinar. So the resources will be listed there so that they can just click on those too and take advantage of it and find it. I have another really broad question here for both of you to answer. Here we go. Do you have other ideas for decorating the church sanctuary for Advent and Christmas? Nicole, maybe we'll let you go first this time. Sure.
Okay. So actually, our congregation has had 2 Advent articles written up in Reformed Worship, which you can look up. One of them is A Universe of Promise, and the other one is Advent, Then and Now. And in both situations, what we did is we took rigid foam insulation as our background. My husband is a contractor, so we can get that for a pretty decent price. But this is something that one of our artist people here found is really excellent. You can paint on it. you can carve it, you can glue things on it. And so if you look at those two articles in the Reformed Worship Journal, you'll notice what we did is we painted those two specifically, and they're large, like they're 8 feet tall, 4 feet wide. And so we created an entire backdrop for the stage area of our sanctuary that supported that theme. And that makes a huge impact for very little cost.
What kind of foam was that?
It's called rigid foam insulation. It's a building material that they use for insulating homes.
Yes. Very, very inexpensive. That's great.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. I think for other ideas for me for Advent, we are going to use snowflakes this time because people just love the origami with the band charts. They liked having our songs floating above them all Christmas long. So that's what we're going to do this season. And I'm going to use branches from some cuttings that we did during the summer. And we're going to make some large mobiles from the ceiling with these snowflakes hanging from them. And then other things that we've done for Christmas as well, besides just our sanctuary just lends itself to having Christmas lights up in that big ceiling. But I think things on the ceiling over the congregation, instead of just kind of focusing only on the platform itself, makes them feel like more a part of the scene. And so I encourage people to look at their ceilings, and even if their ceiling is low, find out ways that you can do things on the ceiling that will kind of make the congregation feel more a part of the whole picture.
Great. Good. If you think of something else for Advent or Christmas, just jump in there. The next question comes from Nancy, and it's to probably both of you too, but especially Nicole. Do you pay your guest artists to show their work in the church gallery?
Yes, we do, actually. We gift the artists who have an entire exhibit in the gallery. It's $100, and often what we'll do is we'll purchase a gift card for the local art store. If they're not local, I've ordered gift cards from Curry's, and they'll actually ship them out to you, which is really great. And that's an art supply store that artists really value. The materials there are excellent. For our artist in residency program, we decided that we wanted to allot a certain value, like a dollar value towards the number of hours that we thought this could take. And so we had a budget of $1,600. And we told our artist that this is the money and it's up to you to spend your, to purchase your supplies and to spend your time. We want you compensated for your time. Our first artist, Anita Benzumarin, she just went like above and beyond what we expected, and she spent so much time she probably didn't make any money for the hours that she put in. But anyways, that is something that we put as a guideline, right? Because we oftentimes the church will ask people to do things for free, and specifically artists. We find that's kind of a unifying thing just out in the world in general, is that the artist or the musician will do things for free because it's good exposure for them. But we wanted to say, no, your work is valuable and it speaks to the kingdom of God. And so we want to honor their work and provide compensation for that.
Good. Have you ever paid any artists, Sydney?
No, we have not. We have a pretty limited budget. And so the art that we have done so far has all been volunteer.
All right. And Nicole, maybe you could say a little bit more about working with the local college. I picked that up from your kind of the beginning of your presentation where you were talking about working with students, I think, from the college. You're letting them display their work. Talk a little bit more about that, and maybe how we could even get maybe our high school students or our middle school students involved. What do you think? Yeah,
I think that's an excellent idea. Because I'm an artist myself, I tend to go to studios and go to art tours and things like this, so I'm being artist. But I would think that if someone was starting out in a church and didn't know where to start, your local Christian university or college or high school would be a great place to resource. I know Phil because he's exhibited here before. He's an artist who lives in Elora, which is very close to us, and he's been the professor there for a couple of years. And then we've also had the Dean of the Art Department come and exhibit his work, which is iconography. So I was resonating with what you were saying there earlier, Sydney. It's just a great way to demonstrate to those artists who are training their skills that what they're doing is valued not only in a commercial kind of aspect, but by the church. Because, you know, and then things kind of got thrown out the window, right? And then we're slowly seeing that come back into churches, this acceptance or this desire to have a visual representation. And we're not, you know, we don't worship the art, but it's a way for us to engage. Like you said earlier, Sydney, some people learn by the word and some people by movement. Some people might be worshiping God by walking outside. This is another way for us to create an accessible point to find a space with God. And so showing these artists that a church loves what they do and wants to support and encourage them in that is really valuable. Just reach out to that art department then in your local schools and invite them. And I think there's lots of different ways. We happen to have a gallery, so we can exhibit in that way. But maybe you just have a blank wall somewhere and you want to have one space. Or maybe you want to do live art like Sydney's had. Maybe you want to just show pictures of their work on, you know, as a sermon illustration. I think there's lots of ways to be creative about that.
Yeah, great. Sydney, we don't have any more questions at the moment. If somebody would like to send one in, we have a few more minutes. So if you want to ask either one of these presenters today a question, as this is the time to do it and to interact with them. And in the meantime, I'm going to ask Sydney to talk a little bit more about the light boxes. They are absolutely amazing and fabulous. I'm also, though, encouraged by the fact that you talk about your church, you know, being rather small and having a limited budget, because they look very expensive and they look very complicated. So tell us again how that it's possible to do this, if you really want to.
Sure. The design is quite simple, and we just approached a local sign fabricator and told them materials that we'd like to have it made out of. And so it was a simple aluminum and this coroplast, which is quite inexpensive for what it is. And sign fabricators are able to get the larger sheets of it. If you get them at Home Depot, they're a lot smaller, but you can make smaller light boxes. You can have a bunch of them on the wall. It doesn't have to be just one great big box. We wound up spending just over $1,200 on both of the light boxes. So altogether $1,200, and it is a pretty significant change to our sanctuary for that amount of money. The lighting cost around $300. And then the boxes we were able to get made for $800, which we thought was just really brilliant. And the sign fabricator was so intrigued about what we were doing that he wanted to be part of the install. So he came to our church and hung out with our folks and worked with us. And so we were able to have him at our church, and he was able to see the fruit of his own labor that way. And he helped us install them. So that was really great. And so as far as the coroplast is really flexible. You can use coroplast in a lot of different ways. You could use block masking tape to tape coroplast together into a box and put a light in it, and you would instantly have a glowing box. So coroplast is easy to work with. You just cut it with like you would a corrugated cardboard. And so it's easy to cut, it's easy to use. Again, I recommend that you would get the natural color of coroplast instead of the regular light. There's something about that natural color that just makes the glow a little more even.
Awesome.
There's one other thing that I did not mention that I think I would like to share about, and that is our gallery system, hanging system. And I don't know what kind you have, Nicole, for yours. but a lot of people are worried about like making a bunch of holes in the walls and have to repair the walls and all that kind of thing. We are installing a gallery system which is similar to the one that's behind me, and I'll try and put this up so you can kind of see it. It's just a aluminum strip that's up at the top of the wall. And this one happens to have electricity, so I do some picture lights that shine down onto the artwork. Works on 12 volts, and that's easy to install, or you can get it without electricity. And then they hang from just these, you can't even see them because they're so hidden. They're just thick fishing line, essentially, with hooks that are designed to hang in the back of them that you can slide up and down. So you can make your gallery, your exhibit wall just really flexible in that way, and you don't have to damage the wall at all. So I just wanted to mention that.
We have a really amazing custodian who doesn't mind that we put holes in our walls.
Oh.
I know that would be a concern for some people. So a couple times a year, he goes around and patches all the holes and he repaints our walls for us. And I've offered several times to do it, but he wants to do it himself, so it's done right. But we're just very fortunate and blessed in that he understands that a church is a space to do things and not just to look perfect all the time. So.
Nice. We have one final question to end with. How do you teach or lead the children to make their pictures for framing? And were they all asked to make the same picture? And were all the pictures hung up?
Okay, so I think that was a fairly obvious that Asleep on the Hay was about Jesus born in the manger, right? And so I think that's why you end up with a lot of pictures that look the same. That was the only direction we gave them. And in terms of content, I believe we did say, please make it a certain size and for it to be two-dimensional, because we are not really capable right now of exhibiting very sculptural works. We hung every single piece. This is kids, right? You don't want one child sitting there going, where is my piece? That's with children. I think you hang every single piece. When we ask for submissions for our photography exhibit from our congregation, we do not hang every single piece because we'll have a theme and we need to make sure that it's going to fit in that theme. We need to make sure that the quality of the pictures is good, right? And so we curate that definitely, but that's also part of our communication so that people understand and they don't know, they don't wonder all of a sudden why they didn't get hung. So there's a difference between adults, obviously, and then children. With children, absolutely hang every single one.
Nice. How about you, Sydney? Do you have any input on that when you ask your congregation or your children to participate and make things?
Working with the children's director is awesome, and so I let her oversee what they're going to do and choose how to create the art with the kids. And the first one that we did was just those paper bags that they made the little houses out of, and they used magazines to cut things out of. So we used a twine that was attached to the wall and just used clothespins to hang those up, and we hung everything. The next one that we did was about the mustard seed and how it grows into the largest garden plant where all the birds come to nest. And so each of the children were asked to make a bird to go into the bush that was created, and all of the birds were put up there. So things like that where the kids can get involved, and if it's children, I say you hang everything. We so far have been not overwrought with so much artwork from our Text of the Quarter that we have not had enough space on the wall to hang everyone's artwork. So we've hung everyone's so far, and I think that's been really appreciated by the congregation. I'm looking forward to the day when we have too much and then we'll have to curate it. So.
Well, thank you both so much. This has been amazing. I can't wait to watch it again so that I can see see your pictures again. They were great. I encourage everybody who's listened to share this webinar. Like I said, we're recording it. We'll have it posted in about 1 week. We'll try to send you all the link to that so that you can watch it again. And you can also share it with your worship teams, with your pastors, with your artists, with your children's ministry directors, with everybody that might be interested. I'm going to share my screen here a minute again and go to this slide so that you can see our website, crcna.org/worship is where we will be posting this webinar soon, like I said, within a week, hopefully. If you would like to email or ask any questions of either Sydney or Nicole after this is done and you think of other things, or you'd want to communicate with them personally, go ahead and just send us an email here at worship@crcna.org, and we'll make sure that they get your message or your email address, and I'm guessing that they will probably be willing to communicate with you. Like I said, when we post this webinar on the network, we will also include links to all of the resources that were mentioned today. So you will be able to find those as well. Thank you all for attending. We are so blessed by having Sydney and Nicole. Thank you, especially Sydney and Nicole, for all of your sharing, all of your work, all of your art, and all of your ministry with us. So our prayer is that you will all have a good day and that God will bless you in your ministry and your worship. Join us next Monday. We will be talking about the pastoral aspects of worship ministry, and that will be with author and teacher Zach Hicks. So goodbye, everybody, and hopefully we will see you next Monday.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.